Just closed last month on our latest storage deal in Greenville, South Carolina. Facility's a mess, around 50% delinquency, bad management, no systems, no software, no automation. So obviously there's value to be added. After implementing our business plan, we will be able to quickly refinance, and this thing's gonna cash flow heavy. We'll be able to double its value in less than 5 years. I'm gonna walk you through exactly how we looked at it and how we take something that seems broken and turn it into a cash cow. Let's get into it. All right, so this is the deal we're buying, or we bought last month in Greenville, South Carolina. So if you're looking at this aerial view, it's a little bit 3-parcel property. It's this unit right here. This has a little bit of storage space, like 10, 12 units right there, an office with an apartment in place right there for the live-in manager. This property, and then this has this building right here, this standalone building, these 2 buildings, some parking, and then over here, these 4 buildings right here. This property is 50,000 square feet. We bought this property off market from somebody who actually inherited the property a couple years ago, and there's multiple heirs. And ever since really, I think it's been inherited, it really hasn't been managed properly. They're kind of more, not looking to like run it like a business, like most people don't. They were just getting the cash from it, happy with what it was doing. And they didn't really have any good systems in place. They had no software or nothing that was really working at all. I can barely get any information from the sellers about rent rolls. It was so difficult. They couldn't extract PDF files or Excel files. Everything had to be printed and scanned and sent over. So ancient stuff. It was so difficult to get real information. So when we first contracted this property, we got we tried to obviously go seller financing. That's always our go-to, but they weren't going to do it because there's multiple heirs on the property and they didn't want to split up this cash and all have payments. Even though sometimes we can still make it work, they just weren't willing to. But they were willing to take a cash offer and be lower than what the value is. And so for us, this property, we contracted originally at $2.725 million. For 50,000 square feet. So that's a very good price. I don't know if you watched our other video that we posted in Inman, South Carolina. We bought that 50,000 square feet property, which is only 30 minutes away, for $4 million. Now we did get seller financing on that one, but you can see there it's roughly the same size of property. This Greenville is actually a bigger market. And so very good pricing on this deal for a cash offer. Now, again, the value of the property is only based on the income it can produce or what you can produce out of it after doing the add value. Now for this property, once I got into the due diligence and went and visited the site because I could not get any really good due diligence material from them directly. I had to go there and sit behind the computer and go through their terrible software and try to, pick apart everything that was going on there. And so what I was originally told was that the income was roughly bringing in $18,000 a month. But actually, that's what it should be collecting if everybody was paying. But it was really more like $13,000, $14,000 a month. That's obviously a significant difference on the income it's producing. And so with that right away, I renegotiated immediately. I was not going to, I had people plan for inspections and surveys and phase 1 and all these things you do. You hire for third-party reports that cost significant money, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in total. And I wasn't about to spend that money if this guy wasn't going to, if this family, the sellers weren't going to renegotiate on this price, because I was told one thing, and when I got there, it was actually a completely different another thing. So that's why due diligence is so important. I always go to the site. I always make sure I see everything. You want to do a financial audit. You want to make sure that income that they show you is actually income received. A lot of times people say, hey, I get some money in cash. It's like, well, I need to see that cash in the bank account. I need to see bank statements. I need to see a tax return. I need to see real financials to verify that the income you're telling me is real income, because that can really get you screwed up. So always make sure you verify the income, verify the financials. And so after renegotiating, obviously I was trying to get 500 grand off. We got to 400 grand off. So we got to a price of 2.32 million. And that's what we closed on this property last month. So this property, it showed originally that it was 85% occupancy. But again, we saw that there's about 4,000 or 5,000 of income that wasn't being collected. And so they had so many people in the units that literally when after we purchased the property, we were there for almost a whole week. We went through each unit, and some people, there was units in there where they're just junk in the unit and they don't have a person, a name, or anybody attached to that unit. There's people who've been in there who've moved out 3 years ago. We located all the people, all the information, people we couldn't get in contact with. We skip traced, which is just like reverse, phone number search for sellers. There's services that you can pay for that. And we found these people and we're calling them they're like, I moved out 3 years ago. So 3 years, they have not been running this unit. 3 years, this unit has just been sitting with someone's stuff in it, really trash. And so we get the permission, we toss it out. Obviously they left it behind. They did not want it. And so there's literally 2 dozen units like that were just not even being utilized. And this place did actually have high occupancy on what it was on the big units. So there are a lot of small units. A lot of the vacancy is on the small units, but some of these big units were occupied with trash and they just weren't renting them because they never just cut the lock and see oh, this person's not paying, hasn't paid for 2-3 years. Maybe I should try to find them or auction the unit or do something. They just didn't really make it a priority. And so, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to run it like a business. We're going to maximize the dollars at this property for ourselves and our investors to make sure we can cash flow and make sure we increase the value of this property. So again, we bought this property for $2.32 million. We bought it cash. Now, the best thing, one of the best kind of why this deal is kind of still creative. If you watch the last video, the Inman self-storage deal, we bought that property with seller financing, $4 million purchase price, $3 million down, and $1 million down, $3 million seller financing. That seller I made friends with. He was an awesome guy, super smart. And we had conversations outside of closing. And, he mentioned that he does some lending for real estate. And so I mentioned that I was buying this deal not too far away. He drove by, he looked at it. He saw we got a good value for it. And I asked him so I can borrow $1 million cash on this deal. So it's a low leverage for him. It is high interest for me, but it is, it's kind of like hard money. It's like bridge capital. So it's 10% interest only on $1 million. And so instead of me having to raise from private investors, $2.4 million or what it was in total. Let's see what we rose on this deal. The total all in all in this deal was like $2.7 million. Instead of raising all cash, $2.7 million from investors, which is a little bit more harder to get all that capital raised. I only had to raise $1.7 million because I was able to get a loan for $1 million without getting anybody checking my credit, without them really doing any kind of financial auditing of myself, which banks, if you ever dealt with commercial banks, they take you through the ringer and it makes it very difficult. In a property like this, the reason it had to be cash is because it had such low income and such low occupancy that, and so high delinquency that it would be tough for a bank to finance this property. They would not give you that much money on something like this. And so using a bridge lender or a hard money lender or a private individual is the way to go to lower the cash needed to buy this deal. So we borrow that cash from our previous seller, which I always ask sellers. This is a great tip to raise private money. If you're doing anything in real estate, whether you're a realtor, you're a wholesaler, whatever you are, every deal you close, you should always ask the seller what they're doing with their capital. If they ever invest in real estate, they loan money, because a lot of times they're getting a big chunk of change from selling a house or a commercial property. And what are they going to do with that capital? This gentleman, I gave him $1 million, and 2 months later, he gave it right back to me at 10% interest. Amazing. So we got this deal, raising $1.7 million. For this property, our add value. So every property we're looking at, where can we add the value? So if you look at the street view here on this property, it's a nice big property. It's concrete block, which is good, which is great. The doors are actually in really good condition. It's just not clean. And so one of the first things we did was pressure wash the buildings. This blue up top was a little bit faded, so we painted the blue up top. It did have lights everywhere. These cameras were ancient and did not work, so we got cameras added. It had a nice gate, big, nice, solid iron gate. That's good. Their keypads were trash. We tried to, not trash, but they were just not connecting to any software. We have new software put in place. We added our keypads to use that connects to our software so people can get locked out if they're not paying. We'll go into the other property over here. This is where the office is located. So it's the main road is right here. If I'll show you the aerial view. So it's right off the highway, but it's a little cut back in this corner. So we have this building here, this building and this building, but it's right off the highway where there's a lot of activity. There's like a Home Depot over here, a Lowe's. It's a nice little area here. There's this little pocket of houses is not the best little pocket, but there's some $1 million houses in here. There's some nice houses, nice area. When you look at Radius Plus as a tool we use in self-storage, there's other ones like Track IQ, which we also use. And these are give you better ideas of the market of supply in these areas and more demographic knowledge. So in this area, there is a 4 square feet per person in this 3-mile radius of square footage. So there's 200,000 square feet of self-storage, climate control, and 150,000 of non-climate control. In total, there's 7 square feet per person in this population, in this 3-mile radius of 50,000 people. So 50,000 people in a 3-mile radius, that's great. It's a good market. It's a big market in Greenville. In a 5-mile radius, there is 145,000 people. And the supply is a little bit higher. It's 13 square feet. Really, that 3-mile radius is probably where we want to be at. You can also check like drive time, which is like 6 to 10 minutes is probably an ideal situation too. But when we look at here, it looks like in this area, there's just not as much supply. The one thing you'll see with this one is, and this didn't pop up when we initially contracted this property, this public storage. There's a public storage being built right around the corner. And so I already contracted the property. I already went to the property before I noticed this public storage. This public storage being built is going to be all climate control. Let's see if we can actually go see it over here. This property, wrong way. This property is being built. It's going to be all climate control. It's like 70,000 square feet. And it's literally right here. It's around the corner. And it's in this area. So it's right around the corner, and it is going to be a public storage. And so if you want to learn how to do deals like this, finding mismanaged facilities, negotiating seller financing, adding value, and automating 90% of the business, that's exactly what I teach you inside Self-Storage Creators. You'll get the step-by-step playbook, live coaching, and a real community of people who are closing deals right now, not 5 years ago. If you're serious about owning real assets and building real freedom, click the link in the description below. Check it out. That was definitely a concern for me because obviously in this area or any area, the worst thing for storage is more self-storage. More supply hitting the market is tough because when someone comes to the market, they're trying to fill up. So they're going to have 70,000 square feet to fill up. And this can hurt you. And it has hurt us on other properties where we didn't know, and years later, a facility popped up, is when they come to market, they're going to reduce their rates significantly to gain customers, to grow their occupancy. And with us, obviously we're competing for those same customers. With storage, it is a business. So a lot of times on average, people stay 14 months in a self-storage facility. They might intend to stay only for a couple of months, but they stay longer. But you're always having move outs. There's always constant move outs and move ins. So that's why you're always marketing. You're always running for us, running Google ads and trying to attract new customers. And so when we're having those move outs, when that property gets built, we're going to be competing for those same customers, and their prices, if they're reducing their prices below our prices, which happened at other properties, we can't compete with those new properties, and our occupancy will drop. And so it's like, and we might even have to drop our rates to compete. And so that was a concern here. Now it's just started to being built. So like this property, there was holes in the ground and they were digging for water and all that stuff, but it's underway now, and we just closed on the property. So they probably got a year till they're actually built and ready. Hopefully longer. Hopefully they get super delayed and gives me more time. But our goal is to really fill this property, fill the occupancy, because there is low demand. There is low supply. So, and obviously there's a couple things. When the reason they're building that property there, public storage, big company, big REIT worth billions of dollars, they know that there's demand in that market, because why else would they build there? So they've already done the research that like, this is a good area to be at. This is where we want to be. And so for us, that's good for us. But what we want to do is make sure we capture the customers and maximize our occupancy right now. Because when we're competing with them, if we're trying to grow our occupancy at the same time they are, we're not going to win because they're just going to have a better, newer product. Now, there is a different factor here because they're going to be pretty much all climate control. They might have a couple outdoor units, but it's very limited. And a lot of times these big units, people like to drive up to them. You know, I just toured a property yesterday at Extra Space, and she's like, the drive up units are the first ones to go. I'm like, are they climate control? She's like, no. She's like, and there's a wait list for them because that's what people actually want. They build these big monster, you know, three-story self-storage facilities because they don't have a lot of acres. You know, they don't have a lot of land. And so in this little space, you know, you can't put, you know, look at our property, how much space our property takes. We have all this land here. They got a little square. They can't build 50,000 square feet spread out all drive up. If they could, they would because it sells out faster. Now, there's going to be multi-story and climate control. And with that, it's almost like really not a direct competitor because ours is drive up and non-climate control. So our rates still should be, even with their lower rates, it really shouldn't be that big of a factor unless they like go so crazy low, which they could. Our only concern really is the small units, those 5x5s, those 5x10s, because a 5x5 unit, you can, you know, put in your trunk of car. It's easy to carry. It's not going to be probably a lot. It's not like couches and mattresses and furniture and all this stuff that like is kind of a pain to put into an elevator, bring up to the third floor and put into a unit. So that's why our bigger units should sell out and shouldn't have a problem competing with public storage. It's those small units that we really think that like, that's going to be our struggle of like trying to, you know, continue to get those leased up when they come to market. So, that is a concern. But right now, our goal is to drive occupancy as we just bought this property. So we're going to put a lot towards marketing this facility. We only owned it for a month and we've already pretty much done all our add value. We have painted the buildings. We have pressure washed the buildings. We changed the gates. Let's see what else we did. We painted the bollards, which are the little yellow cones on the corners of the buildings. We added new signage. We got the cameras added. We painted the buildings. We trimmed all these trees. There was so much overgrowth of trees. We trimmed all the trees. We fixed the locks, all the latches, the doors that were messed up. We junked out a bunch of units that were just left behind. We have not cleaned up the office yet. We got to do that. It needs a little bit of a rehab there inside just to make it nice and pretty. We changed the gate keypads. We fixed the doors. So we already did all our added value. And so now it is really just about increasing our occupancy, driving occupancy. There's typically you want to drive occupancy, you want to drive rents, and you want to do them one at a time. For right now, this property has low occupancy, so we're going to drive occupancy first, and then we're going to push the rents. And so our goal is to clean it up, which we did. And now we're going to start pouring money into marketing to attract new customers. It is about the end of April, so rental season's coming up. And so now we're just about to start dumping money into PPC, pay-per-click Google advertising, and just start attracting new customers and getting new customers out there. And so that's our goal for this summer, is really get to a much higher occupancy on this property. If you've seen us look at other properties before, you'll see like there's the current market rate, and what the market rate is. So in our underwriting, my underwriting, I didn't even show that we're going to increase the rents. That is not my goal. My goal is to push the occupancy. And so, and you can see on the rent comps here, so this is our property here. You can see that not everybody has 5x5s similar to ours, but in 5x10s, you know, we have lower rents. 10x10s, we get 70. Some people get 100. Some people get 80. So we do have that add value potential of raising rents. It's just not our main focus. My focus is driving occupancy. Now, on in-place rents for current customers, we are going to get rent increases there. But always the first thing we do is implement tenant protection, tenant insurance. That allows us to get extra income, but allows the customer to get some value also by having protection of their belongings inside their units. So that's the first thing we added to the property, and that takes effect, I believe, in May. And so that will be an extra income for us on each property already, on each individual unit. Now, our goal is to drive rents or drive occupancy, but in sometime this summer, we will also do a rent increase, getting people up closer to market rents. Now, as you see again, our 10x12s are less than market. We got $10, $15 there. Our 10x15s, $30 compared to this auto space storage facility. Our bigger units, 10 by 20s, we got room to push the rent 20, 30 bucks there. And our 10 by 30s are only renting for 145, where the market's getting $200. It's always also easier to raise rents on the bigger units because you may think $50 is a big rent increase, which it is. It's 25, 33% increase on what they're currently paying. However, if they get that rent increase and you're going to say, hey, I'm going to go for 145 to 190 or 195, a $50 increase. And they go, obviously they might be upset, but they've been getting a deal for such a long time. Things have changed. When we buy this property, the taxes are going to 4X compared with the taxes were before. And so our expenses change, and obviously there's inflation. They've just been stuck in this low rent because the owners have not increased their rents, but they should have been increasing over time, but they just haven't done that. So you just got to let them know, hey, we're going to have the rent increase, and they can go out and look for other properties of what they can rent. But when they go out to the market, they see, oh, it's 195 here, it's 200 here. So why would I pack up all my stuff and move to another facility where I'm going to pay $195 anyway? It makes no sense. So that's why you're able to do these kind of rent increases, because it's what the market's charging anyway. That's what they should be paying. But now it's so difficult. Obviously 10 by 30 is 300 square feet. It's a lot of square footage. It's a lot of stuff to just pack up and move. You got to rent a U-Haul. You got to do all these things. And so it's easier to get rent increases on bigger units. And you'll see there's more demand for bigger units because obviously there's less of them. But the smaller units are always a little bit trickier to do rent increases because, like I said earlier about the climate control units, a 5 by 5, you raise these up, $10, $20, you double those. They can just be like, oh, I'll just grab my little cabinet full of items and I'll just move on. So you're always going to have a better opportunity with the bigger units to push the rents. And they also, in most markets that we see, they're better products in more high demand. So as you see here, this is a market with low supply, especially in this area. And then with the properties here, the population growth is positive. So over 1.1% population growth each year. The income is 72,000 median income. And there's housing developments in these areas, in this county. And so that's what we like to see. We like to see an area that's growing with good median income, with a large population. It gives us more customers. And that's what we have in this market. So that's why we proceeded with this deal, that we feel that in 4 to 5 years, we're going to be able to double the value of this property. If you have looked at that video of the Inman case study that we did, it's 30 minutes away from this property. That deal, we bought it for $4 million. We feel like we can get it to worth $5.5 million. This deal also, I feel like we could be worth north of $5 million in a couple years' time. Now, for us, our goal is to maximize the value quickly within a year, maybe 2 years, and then refinance so I could pay that bridge lender off of that 10% interest, get our investors' capital back as much as possible, and then they'll probably still have some money in the deal, much less, and then we'll continue to cash flow this asset and continue to push the value. And then at that point, they're going to get a much higher cash on cash return because they're going to have a lot less capital involved in the deal. And then at that point in time, we can look to package it with the Inman self-storage deal and many others that we're going to look to buy in this market, and then package it all up and sell it down the line, or just continue to hold it and cash flow this property and build value, pay down the principal, and just hold long-term until the right time to sell, or, just pay it off in full, and then just have a cash flowing asset that has no debt. And so we have multiple options here, and it's all about buying right. You got to make money when you buy, and you have to make sure you have value to add. And obviously on this property, it was a mess. It's mismanaged, and it's going to take a little bit of work. But actually, after being there for a week, it was a lot better or easier to do what we wanted to do on this property. And if you there's a video of showing us exactly what we did in the description below. We'll link a video to our walkthrough of that property, our takeover of that property for 5 days. Check out that video of what we did those 5 days and how we did all the add value. And it's a little tutorial on that. And it was actually not as messy as I originally thought when I did it due diligence. So this property. Also, we feel like we're ahead of schedule on where we want it to be. And so a great deal here. And that's it. That's the blueprint. Find mismanaged facilities, fix the operations, raise the value, create real wealth. If you want to see more real underwriting breakdowns like this, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and drop a comment with any questions you have. We can answer those for you. I appreciate you guys. See you on the next one.